Tonight, trust busting, the six media giants, GE, News Corp, Disney, Viacom, Time Warner, and CBS are on notice. And a man steals an airplane out of a Seattle airport, and Q has some more information. Plus, noted fake news hack Bill Maher has a lot to say about Q, and Q has a lot to say about him. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to Just Informed Talk. For those of you who don't know, every episode I start by thanking my subscribers. There's always new subscribers, so I'm thankful to each and every one of you. If you haven't hit that subscribe button already, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. That way, as soon as these videos get posted, you'll be notified, because as soon as the information is made available to me, I make it available to you. So here, this is where we begin. We begin with Q's latest post. Now, there was a lot that happened in the last episode, and I really want you guys to go back. If you want to learn about what happened with this whole hacking and everything like that, come here and watch this video. It'll explain everything and the last few Q posts, because they tried to hack Q and expose it, but it all kind of fell flat, and nothing really changed other than it made them expose themselves as clown, shills, whatever you want to call them, right? So now we can watch that video if you want. If you're scratching your head going, what's Q? Watch this video. It gives you all the information you need to get started with Q, you know, how to find the information, how to research the information. Share this one with friends, share this one with family, those that you love and care about. Get that information to them so that they can start following this. And we're going to go right into this latest post. So here we go. This is where we'll begin. Now, it's this picture that Q gives us. Now, it's the picture we've seen before. I'm sure you all know that there are six media giants that have consolidated basically 90% of what we read, watch, and listen to. And if you don't believe me, you can go look this up for yourself. But the six corporations are basically these monolithic megaliths, if you will, these huge companies, corporations that own subsidiaries. So you have GE, who owns Comcast, NBC, Universal Pictures, Focus Features. Then you have News Corp, which is Fox, Wall Street Journal, New York Post. Disney owns ABC, ESPN, Pixar, Miramax, Marvel Studios, Viacom, MTV, Nick Jr.'s, BET, CMT, Paramount Pictures, Time Warner, CNN, HBO, Time, Warner Brothers, CBS, Showtime, Smithsonian Channel, NFL.com, Jeopardy, and 60 Minutes, and that's just a few. Those are just the more notable ones. If you can, there's actually graphics out there that will show you how many of the things, the channels and the companies and things that you subscribe to, news outlets, are owned. It's incredible to make that realization. And then also to realize that this is a byproduct of something that was put into effect under Bill Clinton, where we actually had a good dispersion. It says here, back in 1983, 90% of American media was owned by 50 different companies. Now today, that same percentage is owned by 6 companies. So talk about trust, talk about a monopoly, talk about, violating trust laws, or antitrust laws. So listen, there is a lot to unpack here, and we're going to get into exactly what Q says. Fake news consolidation propaganda arm of the Democratic Party. So they obviously have been funded by Democrats, and that's really, they kind of work off each other. It's like a symbiosis. The Democrats give them the fake news, they report the fake news. Then they get, accolades from the public for getting inside sources that's really just propaganda. Now, Q wants us to define antitrust laws. Well, a simple way to do that would be to just come over here and give a quick look at it. It's talking about how it's a collection of federal and state government laws that regulate the conduct and organization of business corporations, generally to promote fair competition for the benefit of consumers. Well, that packs a lot into it, and there's a lot more to it. But listen, the general gist is you can't allow companies to come together and to use their power and resources to buy out smaller companies to the point of eliminating their competition, because as they buy more of those smaller companies, they get more money and they become larger than their competition. And when they get to a point that they've eaten up all their competition, then they own then they own all the means of production, and they can charge whatever they want, and they can set their own prices. And it just basically, it destroys competition. And our fair market in this capitalist society that we live in is based off of competition. So, look, that's what it basically is saying. But more specifically, Q gives us an article right here. It's an FTC article that talks about the guide to antitrust laws. And if you guys want to read through these, I really encourage you to. I'll leave the links. There's two here talking about the antitrust laws and talking about a guide to them. But it talks about how here that the Sherman Act outlaws every contract, combination, or conspiracy and restraint of trade and any monopolization, attempted monopolization, or conspiracy or combination to monopolize. And what that says, you cannot allow these companies to get so big like Standard Oil did back in the early 20th century to be able to actually create an unfair marketplace where they control not only the means of production but the distribution points, and then they can charge whatever they see fit. Without competition, then there's no incentive for a company to lower its prices for the consumer because they can charge whatever they want. They're the only game in town, if that makes sense. So if you want to read more about this, I'll leave both these links here and you can kind of read through them. They're, fascinating reads to understand more about what's going on. This is the other article that we just looked at. But it says the Sherman Act outlaws every contract combination, what we just read. And then it says the FTC.gov gives you another website, and it talks about the FTC's competition mission is to enforce the rules of the competitive marketplace, the antitrust laws. These laws promote vigorous competition and protect consumers from anti-competitive mergers and business practices. And Q highlights these three companies: Google, Facebook, and Twitter. And yes, they are engaged in market monopolies. And if you don't believe me, go out and try to, find any other social media platform that has near the amount of users on a daily basis as any of these, or interactivity or clicks or whatever. There's nothing in the same ballpark or realm. Okay, so that in and of itself is their consolidation of their market monopolies, and then using that as a disservice to the consumer, creating this unfair advantage for them against not only all other companies, but against the consumer themselves in their inability to go anywhere else to receive the products and services that these companies provide. So, and then Q puts in here, in the metaphorical kill box, which is brackets, change we can believe in. And that was one of, I believe, Barack Hussein's mottos. And that was the change they were all for. They were all for change that they could believe in, as in the elites, as in the globalists, as in the pedophile Luciferian Satanists who Bill Maher so laughingly jokes about. Well, we'll get to that in a second, but that's what that's talking about, and I thought that was very interesting, so I wanted to bring that to your attention. Now, the next post here is talking about something we've talked about in the past many times before. Those of you who don't remember, actually, the original... there was a lawsuit filed by the Democratic National Committee, and it was on computer fraud and abuse, RICO Act, RICO conspiracy, wiretaps, Stored Communications Act, all types of crimes they're accused of violating and breaking, or laws. And then it says these are the plaintiffs, literally, the Russian Federation. So the Democratic National Committee is suing the entire Russian Federation. This is not a joke. I don't even know. Like, who is the idiot that signed off like, hey, would it be a good idea? Let's sue Russia. Are you no? Just sue Russia, and then we'll throw a bunch of other people in there. We'll throw WikiLeaks in there. We'll throw Donald Trump, his campaign, Donald Trump for president. We'll put Donald Trump Jr. in there. Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, Jared Kushner, George Papadopoulos. We'll just throw them all in there. And that's what they did. These people did it. And it's all about this, basically the DNC lost all their emails, and they know it was a big conspiracy that Russia and President Trump with his son and his campaign, and Roger Stone and Jared Kushner and George Papadopoulos, who they basically planted, in my personal opinion, they're trying to say basically that they were all in it together. It was all their big collusion. This is what they do. And this is why the left is so brainwashed, is because this is the story that they actually believe. And they believe it so much that they're actually willing to file court documents. I just don't even know what to say, right? Now, here's the law offices of Cohen, Milstein, Sellers, and Toll. And I'm not sure if that's Michael Cohen or another Cohen, because I'm sure there's plenty of Cohens. But regardless, they're serving a... process papers, which would be basically like serving a subpoena to somebody to come in and have to testify, right? Uh, and to face these charges, actually. So what? I mean, they're trying to get Julian Assange to come here, but it says these people are stupid. And it gives us this website that we just went to. And then it says, never interfere with an enemy while he's in the process of destroying himself. And that's a quote from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And it's so true because I don't know if they hadn't thought this through or if they think that, nobody's going to enter it into the discovery, but this lawsuit could be like a self-destruct button for them. I don't understand this. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around what the logic is behind filing this lawsuit and then trying to bring all these people together as a RICO conspiracy. It's just laughable. They probably had to do that in order to be able to justify the continuation of calling President Trump a Russian agent and saying that Roger Stone and Julian Assange and all these people are basically Russian. They're carrying water for Russia, and that the Russian Federation is pulling all the strings over here. It's just absolute madness. But Q's pointed out, let's have discovery. Please, let's have discovery. I cannot wait for discovery. I hope that they don't seal the documents or anything like that, because it's going to be a blast. We're going to figure out so many great things that are just going to be amazing. So then it talks about here about how the Senate panel actually requested Assange come for testimony in the Russia probe. So I don't know what game they're trying to play here, but yeah. As far as I can tell right now, the game that they are playing is something to the effect of, let's bring it all in and everyone will be too afraid to say anything. They think they're going to destroy Assange and his testimony. They're going to or figure out something they don't already know. To me, it's I don't know. I don't know how to put all this together to decide, other than to say, it says, do you believe in coincidences? We have the source, Q. So when it says we have the source, obviously I don't believe in coincidences, and I guess these two things are connected in a sense, and it's saying we have the source. So I'm not sure if that's saying we have the source for the WikiLeaks dump. Do we have the source for Julian Assange getting the information? I mean, when they say they have the source, it sounds like they actually have the source there with them. Was it not Seth Rich? Was it Seth Rich? I mean, what is the reality of the story? Because that's what I think we're all trying to get to the bottom of. And this is all still playing itself out. But I can make a few guesses. The first guess would be that this process papers and this request for Julian Assange to come testify are trying to get him to come to the United States. I don't know if they would give him some kind of protection or deal to come, but it's kind of like, to me, it's what they did with him before. When President Trump first got in office, they started having discussions about, possibly talking to Julian Assange and getting him, some sort of immunity so he can come and at least testify, even if it's just immunity for certain things and not other things. They were at least trying to start that conversation. And then those conversations basically got destroyed or subverted or undermined by the globalists who were still surrounding Trump at the time. They put a pin in that really quickly. I think it was the U.S. Attorney's Office actually basically, and with James Comey, decided that it was not, they did not want to give Julian Assange a deal. Now I wonder why they didn't want to give Julian Assange a deal. Could it possibly be because Julian Assange is the only one who actually has the evidence besides, the NSA and President Trump, military intelligence, that as to the real source of the WikiLeaks DNC Podesta emails? But what I still don't understand too, and I have to stress this for 1 second with you guys. Why is everybody so concerned about the fact that the DNC emails got stolen, and nobody is looking for one moment besides us, basically, and a few people in Congress and otherwise, looking at the criminality that's been implicated through those emails? That's the thing that just blows my mind every time I read stories about this. So you guys let me know what you think. I know there's more to this and more explanation that could be given, but I've gone over this 100 times, and I really just want to briefly cover that. Now, the next one's very important to understand. It's Bill Maher, and he's got this little bit he does on his show where he calls himself Q, right? And he calls himself Q, and he makes fun of basically all of us. Everyone here who's watching this video seriously concerned about your country. You know, the patriot American. You might be a little bit more conservative, but this clown, which he is a clown, he gets up on TV and wears makeup and says stupid things that people laugh at. So that to me is a definition of a clown. But this clown actually decided to make this whole rant about how we're all crazy for thinking that there are pedophiles out there and that the pedophiles have used that to control the elite. Well, guess what, Bill? I have a question for you. Now, and by the way, he calls himself Q in this, and he makes a big joke about it. And then the laugh track comes on, and the audience light comes on, and they laugh like mindless chimps at his disingenuous attempt to make humor in light of a very serious issue that we're taking very seriously over here. My question to Bill is, hey, and this is my post here. Hey, Shilmar, and I call him a shill because that's what he is. It says, want to tell us about those Hollywood honeypot parties at the Playboy Mansion with Hefner? I've heard all kinds of interesting stories about people who were filmed with underage kids. Ring any bells? Your day will come. Fake news hack. That's what he is. So I just had to get that out there. And Q says, do you remember their names? I wonder what names that Q's referring to with Bill Maher. I don't know. Maybe it has something to do with what I just read. I don't know. Just a guess. It says, we do. It says, do you really believe you are still safe, protected? The world is watching Q. Bill, go ahead. You make your jokes. You make fun of us. You call us conspiracy nuts. You want to make fun of, he even made a joke about a Presbyterian couple who homeschooled their children. As in that's something to be frowned upon. And it just, to me, people like that who don't have any God in their life and they're just soulless atheist vacuums of nothing, they fill that void with these worldly material things, and then they get involved in really sick and disgusting things, and then they laugh at you. They laugh at you to your face on television. So don't forget that when you watch these people who lie to you on a regular basis on the news, who lie to you on a regular basis on the comedy news, the Colberts and the Bill Mahers and the, Samantha Bees, they're all vacuous, soulless, empty vessels that just all they can do is stuff as much material into their soul as they can, and then they laugh at you. And I'm not laughing, and I don't think any of you are laughing at that kind of stupidity. So let's just move on. He doesn't deserve that much, but we will talk about him later, rest assured. Now, the next post here is talking about what we went through. Q's responding to his own post, the one we went over earlier, gives us 2 more articles to the Telecommunications Act of 1996. Now, this is an important act that was put forward by the Clinton administration, and it has some very interesting things stuck in it. Now, what would those things be? Well, you come here, you can read through the Wikipedia page that Q links to, or you can come here and see the actual text of the Communications Act. But what I thought was interesting is that in the Wikipedia page, there's talks about the way that the bill basically was critiqued. And now, first was Title V, which was the obscenity and violence, which basically gave companies a way to control the content, right? By basically saying that they can refuse to carry certain programs, coercion, and enticement of minors, and online family empowerment, stuff like that. Then there was claims made in opposition to the act. One that I thought stood out to me as I was reading through this, I thought was very interesting, was this Ralph Nader, when he argued that the act was an example of corporate welfare spawned by political corruption. It's exactly what it was, because it gave away to incumbent broadcasters valuable license for broadcasting digital signals to public airways. There was a requirement in the act that the FCC not auction off the public spectrum, which the FCC itself valued at $11 to $70 billion. So this was like literally, as Ralph Nader says, is corporate welfare. It was put together by the corrupt politicians for the corporations to screw us by stealing by creating these huge monopolies and having no competition besides themselves and each other. So that's really what I thought was very interesting. Then there's other critiques down here, but it basically talks about how it hurt a lot of the smaller companies, and it didn't make sense because you had the breakup of the it was AT&T, and then it was a bunch of different phone companies, and they were all disbanded, and that was back in the 80s. Now, then you go to 1996, and they're just basically saying, well, we can consolidate again now, and they basically turn the whole thing into a big monopoly that is owned by a very small amount of a handful of companies who control everything. So that's where I'll leave that. I'm sure there's much more you can read into it, but that's where I'm going to just leave that. If you guys want, I'll leave these links if you want to get the brief overview. But then it says, Bill Clinton set the stage, and then it was a plan. And when Q puts these things in the metaphorical kill boxes, the brackets, what it's saying is that we're stopping that. Bill Clinton set the stage, and it was their plan, so we're cutting an end to that, right? And then it says, could a new Telecommunications Act be on the way? Q. Well, I hope so, and I hope it's written in a smart way that protects people's rights to broadcast online, because that's going to be the next big wave. You know, the mainstream media is dead. Okay, there's nothing left there. There's no substance. I turn it on and it's just nonsense and drivel. But if I go to like specific people who I like, I follow them because they're honest, they're real people, and they have good ideas. And I have a list of those if you guys want to see people that I would probably watch over here on the right. And that's just me saying, look, these people are honest, and I trust what they say. And, I still do my own thinking. I'm still a critical thinker, but at least they're not reading off of a corporate script. So that's what that's kind of getting into. Now, the next one is this crazy story. So this plane, okay, was not this particular one, I don't think, but this type of plane, a Q400 plane, right, was hijacked basically, or stolen, I guess, out of a Seattle airport by an employee who got in the cockpit of a plane that was scheduled for repairs, actually was able to take off and then go on this long journey flying around the Washington area, and then he ended up crashing the plane. Now, I don't know whether it was he was shot down or crashed. They're officially reporting that he crashed, but this video right here that we're going to watch shows us that there is a fighter jet that's tailing this guy, and it's really interesting. I'm just going to play the clip here because there's audio. You have audio between him and the flight tower, and he's saying things like, "Look at this guy! Look at how he's flying! This is crazy." But he's saying things to the control tower, and they're doing their best because they're trying to direct traffic too. They're not trying to have a conversation with this guy. I listened to like 25, 30 minutes of a air traffic controller. But that's the plane. That's the Q400 that was hijacked, right? And then you'll see here in a second, the camera guy goes and sees that there's a fighter jet following it. And this guy was saying all kinds of weird stuff to the person on the control tower. He's saying, "Hey, I wonder if this thing can do a barrel roll, and I didn't know I was this crazy," or something to that effect. So, I mean, there you see it. There's the fighter jet, and then shortly after this, the plane went down, and that's basically what that is. So, you read the articles here though, and it talks about how this guy, an employee named Rich, apparently stole the plane. And of course, got up there and started talking about, can the airplane do backflips, and just all kinds of crazy talk. Even here in the article, it talks about what he actually says. He says just all types of crazy stuff. There's no real explanation to why he did it yet at all. But he was definitely an employee at the airport, and he definitely was able to get in this plane and have it take off without anybody being able to stop him. And whether he was stopped by his own, lack of skill as a pilot, or he was taken down, I think either way, let's just be honest, this guy is definitely a loose cannon. Because here it says, he says, "I'm just a broken guy." And the guy, he's called him Rich, is the guy the air traffic controller was calling him. And the aircraft traffic controller says, "There's a runway just off to your right side about a mile." And he would have been landing at a joint base in Lewis McChord. I don't think he wanted to live there. He said, or trying to land there. He said, "Oh man, those guys will rough me up if I try and land there." He said, "This is probably jail time for life, huh?" And then he said, I've got a lot of people that care about me. It's going to disappoint them to hear I did this. Just a broken guy, got a few screws loose, I guess. So there's no explanation, but all the stuff we've talked about with cell phones and these mind altering things, the waves that can be used, radio waves that can be used, and the programs that Q's alluded to in the past, and then him pointing to this, it really raises about a dozen red flags for me. And here's the article that Q actually puts up here. It's from the New York Times, talking about this guy and what actually happened here. So, I don't know what this is, other than to say this is really suspicious and very, very crazy. I mean, to be quite honest. So, you can see here, this guy is obviously just a reckless nut job. And Q says, Otis catch the message? Think missile. Do you believe in coincidences, Q? Now, all I'm going to say is you guys remember what happened on 9/11, and you see what this plane, some random nut job gets in the pilot seat and takes off. Could there have been a more sinister motive behind this? And nobody's talking. Everyone's tight-lipped. They say the investigation could take a really long time to piece together. And especially given the fact that where the plane crashed, it was on this island, and it basically broke up into a lot of different pieces. So they're going to be collecting the debris for a while. And to me, that just is a signal that either he ran out of fuel or he was removed from his position of piloting that plane by force. Which either way, after that, it's how can you really be safe? I mean, you have to weigh it. Weigh all of the consequences, weigh all of the outcomes out and say, this guy's got a plane and he could use it as a weapon if he wanted to. So that's something that has to come into play. And then here's the article that we looked at, the New York Times article, and then it gives the booms next week, Q. So usually when we get booms, that means something really big's coming up, like a big document drop, maybe the redaction for the 20 FISA pages may be coming out. And this could have been the distraction they were looking for to get ahead of the news cycle. I'm not saying that anyone's involved. I'm just saying that this is the kind of thinking that we've been taught by Q to continue to have when it comes to these things. We're always questioning. We're always skeptical because we cannot afford to believe the lies and propaganda that's put on the news in front of us. Not if we want to save this country from the evil that exists really in it. Starting with... If you could start with Bill Maher and then work your way through the whole lot of them. But anyway, now the next one says, how do you prevent the public release of incriminating acts that would forever strip their power away? How do you bind the hands of POTUS? Two-pronged situ. Now, I think this is situation. It could be the Latin situ, which means in place. So two prongs in place, two-pronged in place. I don't know, maybe there's a different way of reading that I'm not seeing right now, but it gives us these two prongs, right? First, you test the strength of midterms through private analysis, win-loss ratio. Then the analysis below is a key metric without chance for recovery. Start a war. Listen, this is what they're trying to do, because this is the idea that they've had. Their idea is this. They've realized that they are not doing well in the win-loss ratio when it comes to the midterms. And they've been analyzing that privately. And then they realize that because they're below a key metric and they can't recover because they're so corrupt and they're so bad and we're so awake to it, even though we need to get more awake, that they will start a war. And President Trump actually has said this before, that the media can cause a war through fake news. So don't forget that. Think missiles accidentally fired. We had two possibly. You have the one out of Washington where they actually catch it on camera being shot off, right? But nobody ever talks about that. And then you have the one in Hawaii where you have the missile scare. We have them actually putting out an alert saying that a missile was incoming. And what really, really seems to be crazy to me is that it's asking against who? Well, presumably these were targeted at Americans. Now that to me is beyond reproach if it's true. That is just a sign that these people are sick, and that the only way we can defeat them is through a strong resolve in getting the truth out there. That's what's going to be our pathway to victory. is to stick to our convictions and understand that there's more to this than even we can understand right now, and that we're going to keep exposing the truth as we go. Then it says relationships are very important. The sharing of information is very important. Q. So I'm not sure what that's referring to, other than that these people all have relationships with one another. They're all in bed with one another, if you will, and they've shared all this information, and they keep sharing it. So I got to see how that one plays out. This one's a little more ambiguous. You guys maybe fill me in the blanks on what that means. As I say, I'm just kind of going over this with you, and then you guys will let me know what you think down in the comments. Now, then Q says Iron Eagle. Now, we talked about Iron Eagle before in regard to it meaning eager lion. It was kind of a play on the letters there. It was a letter scramble. If you unscramble it, it could spell eager lion, which was an operation that was going on in Jordan with the United States Marines preparing for basically any contingencies that were going to be happening out there, and they were preparing for war, kind of doing battle training and that kind of stuff. So in this context, though, I mean, technically, I know it's not made of iron, but it could be considered an Iron Eagle. I mean, if you want to call a train an iron horse, or a motorcycle an iron horse, whatever. So maybe that's kind of a reference to that. But you guys will let me know again what you think down in the comments. Now, the next one is very interesting. It's explaining exactly who all is in the swamp. So it basically explains this, that I think it's what it's saying is like your first example is Google. At the State Department, you had HRC, who then worked with Eric Schmidt and then went down to Lisa Shields. And then it talks about, Q gives us a link here to what would you know? The Council of Foreign Relations, which we all know is the basically unelected office of council of individuals who have dictated foreign policy for the United States by making suggestions. We're not saying they're actually doing it, but their suggestions are basically taken very seriously. And if you look at the board here, what's so interesting is some of the names you see on here. Now, who are some of the people who are involved? Well, let's see. Scrolling down, a lot of these people you may know or you may not know, but you got like Timothy Geithner. We all know him. You have down even further, you have Janet Napolitano. We all know her. And John Paulson, and all these people who obviously were involved in a lot of things, including Fareed Zakaria, who hosts a CNN show, which I don't know how that qualifies you to be on the Council of Foreign Relations, but suffice it to say, that guy gets on air every Sunday and calls the president such and such, and here's Lisa Shields. There you go, lo and behold, she's right there as the Vice President of Global Communications and Media Relations. On the officers, she's listed as an officer of the company, or of the organization. So there you go. So that's how it worked. And then you go down here to this Politico article that Q gives us, and it talks about Molinari to head Google's DC office. So this former congresswoman, of course, Susan Molinari, is named head of Google's Washington office. Well, I wonder what she did while she was in power to gain Google's favor so that they would hire her to be in charge of their DC office. I wonder. Because she's there to make sure that there is no privacy or antitrust suits brought against Google, because they're not trust at all. They're not a monopoly. They're just completely great and benevolent, he said sarcastically. And it goes on to name more people. You have Bill Paxson here. Then you have Akin Gump, Traus, Hauer, and Feld, which is a limited liability partnership here. And they are actually giving us, Q gives us an actual link to their Wikipedia page, which explains that they're headquartered in Washington, D.C., and they're an international law firm, and their most profitable lobbying firm in the United States. Well, yes, they are the Swamp. They have 900 attorneys. Yeah, that is Swamp if I've ever seen Swamp. And you guys can do more research on these names if you want. I'm not going to go into each one very specifically, just more briefly. Like, for instance, here you have Q gives us an article about John Dowd, who was a former attorney to President Trump, who was a swamp creature. He quits Trump's legal team and then calls Mueller terrific. This guy is swamp if I've ever seen swamp, okay? So that is swampy swampness. Sorry. Can't help it. These people are sick. That Melissa Lorenza, and it gives this CNN article, which we know we can trust what they say, right? As we see the Vanderbilt Anderson Cooper there in his little advertisement. And then it says, special counsel reveals potential witnesses in Manafort trial. I wonder who the witness is that's coming forward against Paul Manafort. Well, if you guessed Melissa Lorenza, you'd be right. She happens to be a private attorney who helped Manafort and his longtime deputy Rick Gates file allegedly misleading lobbying registrations with the Justice Department. These are the swamp creatures, and they're coming out by the dozen, and we are going to drain that swamp, and we're going to call them out every step of the way. So that requires us to be on top of it. I'm going to do more research on all these names as we go forward, but if you guys want to do your own research, there you go. You got all the names. You can go put it all together and figure it out for yourself, because that's what this is all about, logical thinking and critical thinking on your part, not just being told what to think, which is what the mainstream media and most people out there want to do. They want to tell you what to think rather than give you the facts for yourself to look at, and that's basically it. And I give you my opinion too. So here's another Fox News article here that talks about how the West Virginia Supreme Court, or the West Virginia lawmakers, are actually moving to impeach the entire Supreme Court. I mean, then that's pretty crazy to me. But they're trying to get rid of every one of their Supreme Court justices in the state of West Virginia. Now, why would they want to do that? Because the West Virginia Supreme Court is just full of criminals and people who are unethical and doing things that are unethical. Like right here, Menace E. Ketchum. He was a former state Supreme Court justice who actually had to resign in July after he was accused of alleged federal wire fraud. He's facing up to 20 years in prison. So, look, all of these people need to be looked at, and you can go through and find it, search West Virginia lawmakers move to impeach Supreme Court, whatever, and you'll be able to pull up that article and other articles and do some research for yourself. But Q asks, is that normal? And then Q says, this is not an updated list, but it talks about people who aren't seeking re-election. I mean, look, Bob Corker, Jeff Flake, Orrin Hatch, No Name McCain, Bill Schuster, Bob Goodlatte, Carol Shea Porter, Charles Dent, Darrell Issa, Dave Reichert, David Trott, Dennis Ross, Edward Royce, Elizabeth Etsy, Frank Lobiondo, Gene Green, Greg Harper, Yolana Ross-Lethinen, sorry, I'm going to butcher some of these. Jeb Henserling, Jim Bridenstine, Joe Barton, Joe Delaney. Here, we'll keep reading. So we got another post in live here on the channel. John Delaney, John Duncan, Lamar Smith, Louis Gutierrez, Lynn Jenkins, Nikki Tsongas, Paul Ryan, Rick Nolan, Robert Brady, Rodney Houston. Some of these people have crazy names. Ruben Kihuen, Ryan Costello, Sam Johnson, Sandy Levin, Ted Poe, Thomas Rooney, Trey Gowdy, Al Franken resigned, Blake Farenthold. These are resignations. Blake Farenthold, Jason Chaffetz, John Conyers Jr., Louis Slaughter, Patrick Meehan, Patrick J. Taberry, Thad Cochran, Tim Murphy, Trent Franks, Xavier Becerra. Normal? No, none of this is normal. And you notice that there's people's names in here who aren't, who you might think. And why does Q give us those names? Well, I mean, it's because we have to look at everyone. Now, I'm not saying Trey Gowdy's a bad guy. I'm not saying Jason Chaffetz is. But let's go ahead and make sure that each one of these people on this list receive scrutiny for why are they resigning? Why are they stepping down? That's the question that Q wants us to ask. So the next one here is talking about Bill Maher. Oh, well, look at this. Isn't this interesting, Mr. Maher? You have this Kid Love Productions. I wonder what that is. And then you have all these little quotes of Bill Maher saying about Deborah LaFave, screwing her 14-year-old boy student. The crime is that we didn't get it on videotape. He was being taken advantage of. I wish I had been taken advantage of like that. That's sick. Then you have here, what's the worst they said Michael Jackson did was a little grabby under the covers. If I could go back and trade that experience being beat up at age 12 for being gently, oh, it's sick. Sick. Here, Mars said, she is in jail because she is in love. That's how I view it. And Mars said this about a Seattle school teacher convicted of having sex with a 12-year-old student and getting pregnant by him. This is the kind of mind, and it goes right back to what I was saying here, guys. I want to ask Shill Mar that question. How were those Hollywood honeypot parties at the Playboy Mansion? How were they? What happened there? That's the question. All right, so Q says, sometimes the truth is right in front of you. And he gives us this Breitbart article. And this is James Gunn. We've talked so much about James Gunn in the past. His sick tweets. He's here at a pedophilia-themed party. And it was I think it was an Amber Alert party or something. Some sick thing like that. And you're sitting there thinking to yourself, what is wrong with these people? What? I've never, with any of my friends or anyone I know, I've ever even discussed, hey, let's have a pedophilia-themed party. And look at the sick stuff that these people are, the sick kind of people that they are. This is the sickness, the disease that has infiltrated Hollywood, politics, and corporations. And this is just a small sampling of it. So, you guys, that's what that is. It's sick. And then Q says, these people are sick. You people are a disease. We, the people, are the cure. Q. And yes, we are. We're going to expose you with the light of day, and we're going to shine it on you bright and square center so that everyone sees you exactly who you are. The sick, twisted, diseased people that you are. And now the next one that Q does is so great. Okay, so you have an Anon post here showing Bill Maher's actual tweets, where he actually talks about how Michelle Bachmann is basically looks like one of the people from the Planet of the Apes, the Rise of the Planet of the Apes. And then he does exactly what Rosie O'Donnell did and what she got canceled and her whole show kicked off of air for, and all of that, does the exact same thing here. Posting pictures of, instead of, the protected class, Valerie Jarrett, because she's whatever she is, Iranian, African American, whatever. You can't say that, but Bill Maher, because he's in the protected class, can say that about Michelle Bachmann, who at the time was really uncovering a lot of real things. There was a real campaign to make her out to be a crazy person. She was called a witch and all this stuff when she was one of the people on the forefront of investigating crime. She got basically destroyed, her whole life destroyed to a degree, in her political life, I would say, because she asked questions of John Brennan, because she said the wrong things at the wrong times to the wrong people who didn't like it. So that's what this is. And this is them stacking up against her back in 2011, Bill Maher comparing her to the people in the Planet of the Apes. But because Michelle Bachmann, like I said, is not a part of the protected class, then it's fair game. But if she happened to have had, if she was Elizabeth Warren and had one billionth Cherokee in her blood, she would automatically be protected and we would have to cancel Bill Maher. But then you're like, it's the liberal head's about to explode because it's like, well, we're going to protect Bill Maher, but we got to protect Elizabeth Warren. And that's what we're dealing with. So these are the two tweets. And then Anon says, haha, that's why I added it there, in there. The hypocrisy is unreal. And then Q actually gives us the link to Bill Maher's Twitter account where he made this tweet. So I encourage you all to do what I'm about to do. And I'm going to do it right here live on air. I'm going to say, hey, Shill Mar, wonder why you haven't had your show canceled yet for your racist tweets. I wonder if he'll get back to me. Maybe I should tag him. We'll tag him at Billy Boy Maher. Yep, there he is. And we'll see if he gives us a response for this. I'm sure he'll delete it soon, so you guys can wait for that. But there you go. That's what we're dealing with here. So I don't know what to say. Other than here's the last tweet before we get going, or the last tweet. Yeah, it's NBC tweeting this out. And they just tweeted it out this afternoon. How to delete old tweets. Because if you said it 8 years ago or 7 years ago, I guess it doesn't matter. You know, it's just a joke because you said it in the past and you're just making jokes. But if you're not a part of the protected elite liberal left wing, you know, class of zombies and brain dead puppets, then you know, don't read this, because you can leave those tweets up so that they can attack you later. But this is for all the people who have made these tweets, like Bill Maher and others, who need to go back and delete them because you guys made awful tweets. So that's all I can say. And Q says, do you believe in coincidences? Truth to power, Q. Look, these people are sick. They're beyond any scale of evil that I've seen, and sick corruption, and they're propagandists, they're pedophiles, they're Satanists. They're the evilest of the evil, and they laugh at you. They laugh at you. They laugh at us. They laugh at all of us. So that's where I'm going to basically wrap it up, because that was a long one. There was a lot of information to cover there. I'm sure there's a lot of holes you guys can fill in better than me, so please go down and leave them in the comments. That'll help out big time. But if you're looking for a way to contribute and help out the channel, the best way to do is to come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. The second best way, and you know, the subscribe thing is huge, because when you guys do that, it makes a huge difference, and I'm so thankful and I'm so appreciative of that. So please go do that. But the second best way is to scroll down at the end of this video and leave your thoughts, theories, and insights about not just the Q posts, because we try to have our own QAnon research board, but about politics, religion, culture, the mainstream news, what they cover, what they will cover, what they won't cover, and what they will cover incorrectly. There's a great conversation going on down there. Even if you can't comment, I encourage you to scroll down and read through the comments. Now, like you guys just saw with my new tweet, if you guys want to come give me a follow on Twitter, that makes a huge difference. Come follow me at Justin_formed, and you guys can come help out and give me a follow. That helps big time, and I really appreciate it. And you guys come check out my tweets and stuff. There's always cool stuff trying to tweet, and like these two little gems here. So if you guys want to get more of that, come over here to twitter.com and search at Justin_formed, and you'll find me pretty easily. Now, if you're looking to help out financially, I really appreciate it. You can come over here to Patreon. That's patreon.com. And when you come here, you just search Justin Form Talking. You click this button to become a patron. Now, what this does, it's a monthly donation, and it helps me keep this work going 24/7, 365 for you guys, because that is my goal. My goal is A, to bring you the Word of God and bring the grace of God into your heart, and B, is to tell you the truth as I know it and I see it. So that's what my two goals are, and you guys help me do that every day when you come here and contribute and help out, and that makes a huge difference. And another way, if you don't want to do the monthly donation thing, I understand. That's why I made this GoFundMe page. It's gofundme.com/just-informed. When you come here, you can click this button, make a one-time donation. You can make it anonymously, and that's just if you're wanting to help out the channel. Trust me, I need all the help I can get, especially with the things I go up against on a regular basis. But I'm so thankful for everyone who has donated and will come check those things out. Now, today is going to end the way we end each video. I'm going to talk about God and the importance of God. And I want to touch on something that's so important. You know, the first reaction I had when I watched that Bill Maher tape was anger, because I was just thinking to myself, you know, he's making fun of people like myself and people who I really care about, like you guys, the audience, and he's doing it so, you know, with such careless disregard for the truth. You know, makes up things and says that Pizzagate is a bunch of people who believe that Hillary was running a child human trafficking out of a pizza shop. No, Bill, that is not it. But anyway, I digress. You know, it made me a little upset, right? And then I was reading through the Bible here, and I found this great passage. You know, I have my daily devotional readings, and then I basically just read the Bible all the time, you know, whenever I have like a few minutes to sit down and read, because it's really important to me in my life, and it's what I've devoted my life to help you guys come closer, and in doing so help myself become closer to God. But it talks here this is in 1 Peter, and it's chapter 3, verse 13, and it talks about undeserved suffering. And it rung true in my heart, because it's not just us who are suffering when they make fun of us and they call us conspiracy theorists and they try to conflate us with other things and they try to, demoralize us and to just divide us and to do all of these things, right? It's not just us. There's so many people who are out there suffering. There are children who are being trafficked. There are people who are losing their lives for trying to report the truth. There are people giving their lives for our country as we speak to fight this evil. And to me, that's undeserved suffering. But God gives us these words that I hope will resonate in your heart, and then you can hopefully pass them or share them with others and share this great piece of scripture. So like I said, 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 13, it says, "And who will harm you if you are passionate for what is good? But even if you should suffer for righteousness, you are blessed. Do not fear what they fear or be disturbed, but set apart the Messiah as Lord in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you. However, do this with gentleness and respect, keeping your conscience clear, so that when you are accused, those who denounce your Christian life will be put to shame. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. For Christ also suffered for sins once for all, the righteous for the unrighteous, that he might bring you to God, after being put to death in the fleshly realm, but made alive in the spiritual realm." And that to me is like, I don't even know how to tell you how that makes me feel when I read those words, because I know God's here with us. I know God's on our side. I know that these people who want to try to destroy us, they want to try to tear us down, they want to try to make us the evil that they are. But it says, it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. So remember, when they chastise us, when they call us names, when they try to gaslight us and try to basically destroy our character and make us think less of ourselves and think less of those who we respect and trust, remember, it's better to suffer for doing good, if that is God's will, than doing evil. And that's how I'm going to live my life. And the way I live my life is exactly what it says right here. It says, "Do not fear what they fear or be disturbed, but set apart the Messiah as Lord in your hearts, and always be ready to give a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is in you." If anyone came up to me and said, "Why are you so hopeful? Why are you a Christian? Why do you believe God and Christ is there?" It's because I know he is. I have faith. That faith saved my life. That faith has delivered me here. That faith has given me an ability to speak to thousands of people, if not millions of people across the world, and tell them the great gift that God has. So don't tell me that God's not real, because I know he is. I've seen him work in my life firsthand. And I know a lot of you out there have seen God's great plan enact itself in your life. So just remember that no matter what, God absolutely loves you. And that no matter what you do, or no matter how bad it gets, just remember that one saying. I'm going to say it again. It's so important. For it is better to suffer for doing good, if that should be God's will, than for doing evil. And that's where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you all for watching. I pray for each and every one of you every day. I pray for my ability to give you the right guidance and words and wisdom. And I pray for you guys just so much, because I know that we're all under attack for just asking questions and just looking into the facts. So we have to remain strong, but remain strong with God, because God will be what delivers us. Jesus will be what delivers us. The Holy Spirit will be what delivers us. Not Bill Maher, not the people on TV, not the propaganda artists, not even President Trump or Q or me. It's going to be God and the Son and the Holy Spirit. So remember that if you don't remember anything else. But thank you all. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, now's a great time to do it. Come here, click the big red subscribe button. But that's going to be it for me. I want to say thank you for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.